There we go.
Good morning, Sharon.
Hello.
How are you?
Afternoon for us. It's good.
I can see that a couple of people are starting to join slowly. We'll just give them a little minute and then we'll just start if that's okay with you.
Great. That works.
How's your day going?
Good. Yeah, my flight back from San Francisco yesterday was fine. I left from Oakland. There are less flights between San Francisco and Los Angeles these days, I
Oh,
noticed,
oh, yeah. Well,
which is
there's less flights everywhere
understandable.
anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, understandable. And a lot of them had stops somewhere in between, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
Gonna go to Phoenix, Las Vegas. It was odd. So I had to be careful to choose a flight that was direct, nonstop.
Okay. Well, let's go then because we're live. But well, hello everyone, and those of you who have started joining us. Welcome to this Friday Story Live. Today we have Sharon with us. We're going to discuss a little bit, but just before we start, let me briefly introduce the French-American Chamber of Commerce of San Francisco, who, for those who might not know it, we are a non-profit, non-governmental organization, and our mission is to foster and engage with the French-American business community in the Bay Area and to help French companies settle in the Bay as well. So Sharon, back to you. First of all, I would like to ask well, who are you? Can you please describe yourself for people who don't know you? Where do you come from? And everything.
Sure, absolutely. So it's cutting off a little bit. I hope it's not. I hope it's not me. Well, we'll see. So first of all, thank you very much, Anne Emmanuel, and your team, Laura and Trent, for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. So a little bit about me. I've been based in Los Angeles for basically decades. I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was a French major in college here in Southern California. And that's what got me into all this trouble. I spent a year abroad in Aix-en-Provence, when I was in my early 20s. And apparently I returned from Aix-en-Provence with a léger accent méridional, which is,
Ooh.
a slight Southern accent, which I was thinking, that's odd. I was thinking about a French person having learned English in Texas and coming back with a Southern American accent. So I worked hard to get rid of that, but I love to speak French. So that was helpful for me when I was in France. And my first job after college was at the French consulate in Los Angeles. I worked in the press department, and then I moved over to working for the Deputy Consul General for events and things like that. I met and married a Frenchman and gained dual citizenship. I have kept my citizenship, even though the marriage is not still ongoing. But my children and I have dual citizenship. So I am the proud parent of two happily worldly kids. Not so much kids anymore. One is living in Paris. He's been there for the past about 6 years. He may be moving back to the East Coast for the final year of an MBA in sustainability. I'm real happy that he's going to be a little bit closer. 9 hours of time difference is difficult, as you know. The other one is working in design and project management and research at an international design firm based in New York. And she was a graphic design major in college.
Okay.
Then I moved from the consulate over to Business France. It was called Invest in France at the time. And I joined as an assistant at first, and then I, of course, helped all the chargés de mission get meetings with companies in the area to interest them in France. And then I ended up being director of communications for North America, based out of Los Angeles, even though the headquarters was in New York. And I discovered there all of the different regions in France. And Grenoble really stood out as a dynamic area and a very professional team. And so I pivoted to represent the Grenoble area in North America 2 decades ago. And I also work for the Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes region, but I can talk about that later. So it turns out that I like techie techie people and technology, which is great. So I don't have any formal training in it, but I pretty much know who needs to meet whom and why. And so it's kind of been by osmosis and then just, affinity.
Okay. And so let's dive into it. What is Invest in Grenoble, Alph? Can you please describe a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So Invest in Grenoble Alpes is a small team of very talented people in the Grenoble area who always have my back. And there are a few people like me scattered all over the world in different, mostly, tech hub areas. So I'm full-time, including my work with the Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes. And which is not surprising, right? Because this is a ginormous territory, North America. We are funded by the Grenoble, so Metro, the Metro Grenoble Alpes, which is the sort of greater Grenoble authority in the area.
And so what do you do exactly? What are the different missions?
Yeah, so we are tasked with helping US and Canadian companies and others understand opportunities in the Grenoble area, and then also the larger, because I do also work for the region, includes Lyon, Saint-Étienne, Clermont-Ferrand. We are judged on the number of projects detected, the follow-up, and then it also takes a village, right, to have any impact in the world these days. And in these matters, it's rather hard to be at the exact right place with the exact right company at the exact right time when they have a project. And so anyway, there's a lot of promotion involved, of course, and so our goal really is to elevate the region's image here in the US and attract folks to the area. We partner closely with Business France, as you can imagine. And it is, we try our best at outreach, and then also so that our region's image shines in North America. I also assist the region's companies, the labs, the universities, research institutes, etc., with their outreach in the US, because I'm happy to share my contacts, and it's a win-win situation when these folks succeed. So I partner. Well, I can explain a little bit later about the network in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay, yeah, sure. What is it exactly that you are looking for? So what companies are you targeting, and what's it all about?
So if I talk about Grenoble, then it's largely tech companies, because we are, very, very tech heavy. It also can have to do with anything in outdoor sports area, as you also can imagine, with the mountains and skiing and hiking and all that around. So I'm really just looking for mostly tech companies looking to explore operations in Europe, and then we will explain why France and why our area. And I really just hope to open a dialogue with executives and companies who could have an interest one day in our area. You can't really start too early. Of course, you can overload people with information, but the dialogue should begin as early as possible with the company. And then we also are attempting to reinforce connections between the ecosystems here in North America, and then steering good people to good people, because it's a two-way street. Often if you want to make connections in a tech ecosystem here in the US, you also have to help your people and bring your people from the region there as well, so that it can be a win-win for them as well.
So how would you, obviously not do the whole pitch because we don't have time for that, but in a few words, why Grenoble? Why is this region interesting? Because a lot of French regions are interesting. What is the particularity of Grenoble?
Sure.
Why should they choose? Why should an American company choose to settle in Grenoble or partner with another Grenoble company?
Right. Great question. So Grenoble is, of course, a powerhouse in microelectronics. And I think everybody knows what a semiconductor is these days because of the shortage, right? There's a problem.
Yeah.
And so more people know about semiconductors.
It's a word we hear every day on the news. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, so I'm happy about that, because it used to be a little bit complicated to describe. Not anymore. People understand how prevalent they are and, omnipresent in our daily lives. So we are huge in microelectronics. One big magnet in the Grenoble area is ST Microelectronics. Another very large player is in the energy sector. Schneider Electric, for example, they have their R&D center, even though they're based in Paris, their R&D center is in the Grenoble area. We are, so microelectronics and energy technologies and anything has to do with the energy transition. So we're very big in the hydrogen economy. And then also med tech. We have expertise in imaging devices, anything chip or sensor related. And Grenoble also has a specific expertise in brain trauma because I believe it started with everyone smashing their heads into trees on the slopes, on the ski slopes.
Oh, yes, of course.
So it was, unfortunately, we had to become experts in that. And so we have a sort of a Nobel Prize winner in France who's specialized in deep brain stimulation. So electronics, related to brain, to the brain. And so then there's also, as I mentioned, anything that has to do with the mountains, outdoor sports related stuff. And then I also have to mention software. So we have a lot of hardware in the Grenoble area. People know that. They don't realize how much software we have as well. We're very big in AI.
Oh, you're breaking a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. You're back. You're back.
Oh, good. So I was saying that we have also software expertise as well as hardware. So people know about our, our chip-specific things and devices, but they don't realize how much software we have as well. So we are a hub for AI, artificial intelligence activities. We're one of the major French hubs, and we have, for example, Salesforce is in the Grenoble area. So anyway, there's a lot of software activity as well. And then I don't know that people realize that the Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes region surpasses the Paris area with regard to industrial activity. And it's not often that we surpass Paris. Yeah. So I toot that horn. Also, Grenoble was just named the European Green Capital for 2022. So we are concentrating a lot of activities and promotion around that. And it was an intense competition. A lot went into our, candidature, and so we're very proud of that, and we're going to make the most of it. So I imagine this year we're going to be doing a lot in green tech, clean tech, sustainability. So
you're all in the hot topics between tech and green tech and biotech and sustainability. It's indeed all the hot topics. So, and do you feel actually like because as a French person, obviously I know Grenoble, but I'm guessing that most Americans don't necessarily know about the city. Do you feel like over the years that name has become more well known, or do you still have to educate American companies?
It depends on the sector. Sometimes people know it because they're in microelectronics, or they've worked with our labs or heard about our labs. And we have also scientific facilities there that are used by people around the world. We have a synchrotron radiation facility, the European Synchrotron Radiation Facility, ESRF. We have, so it's that round thing, kind of CERN-like, that has E-beam lines, and people come from all over the world to use it. Sometimes they know it for that. We have a European Molecular Biology Lab. We have an astronomy facility, and, et cetera. So we're one of the few areas where if you're in science, you probably know it. People outside of maybe those kind of hard sciences, they might know Grenoble because of the skiing, or because maybe, I don't know, HP is there. But sometimes they don't know it, and, they don't know France very well at all. And Americans aren't always that great with geography, right? And that was one of my anecdotes. A couple of times in my career, people have asked me, "Oh, was there a nuclear accident in Grenoble?" And I'm thinking, well, CEA does nuclear, but not in the Grenoble area. And I kind of scratched my head, and I realized that they were understanding Chernobyl and not Grenoble.
Chernobyl instead of Grenoble. Oh,
yeah. So that's not a happy thing for me to hear.
No, that's not.
So I have to say, oh, no nuclear activity.
Yeah, not the same, very far away, not even same country.
Yeah.
But and then going back a little bit too, so what does your network look like, whether in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, or beyond actually? What does it look like?
Yep, yep. And I did want to mention one other
Yeah.
thing. So what's new in Grenoble this year, you know, along with the European Green Capital and or just recent sort of fun things that have happened. One of our stellar CEA LEDI, so Research Institute startups, is in the display industry, so sort of near focus displays, and they have an imminent IPO, so that should happen very shortly. And then Aledia, another one of their stellar spinoffs, raised 80 million euros in late 2020. So you know, middle of COVID, and that was a large raise for us, and that's happening more and more. Excuse me.
No problem.
And then, so with regard to our network in the Bay Area, so it looms large in my life, as you can imagine. My last trip before COVID shut down was to the San Francisco Bay Area. I was with Grenoble École de Management, GEM, and they were doing an event for their one of their programs. And I joined them up there, and then promptly got locked down once I came back home. And then my first trip after, well, my first trip, and not that we're over it, but my first trip in 21 months was to the Bay Area for Semicon West, and that was in early December. And I was just up as you know, because I met with you, was up for Photonics West. So I was helping the CEA LETI lab with their contacts there, and they had a workshop. So anyway, I'm often in the Bay Area, of course, less during COVID. I love the area. I love the nature. I mean, the mountains, the ocean, the history, and just the originality of the city. So as far as, so I mentioned that I work with CEA Labs LEDI and LITEN with Nicolas Bédouin, who's embedded at the French consulate in San Francisco. And there are always links between LEDI and places like, you know, Stanford and UC Berkeley and other places, other hotspots. And then our competitive cluster, Minologic, is for all things digital microelectronics and photonics and all that. They work with School Lab, for example, in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then we have also an endeavor called High Level Forum, and it fosters links between the economies in between innovative ecosystems around the world, and they have links to Grenoble thanks to that. And then I could go into the Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes region has long-standing relationships with other ecosystems, but I'll just say first that I'm a board member and international community leader at LAVA, the Los Angeles Venture Association. So this is down in Los Angeles, of course, and I run the Global LAVA. So shout out to my team at lava.org. And so there's a lot going on in California, and then outside of the Bay Area. So the Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes region has had a strong relationship over the years and an ongoing MOU with the state of Pennsylvania, which is great for me because I'm from Pittsburgh, as I mentioned, and my daughter lives in Philadelphia, and it's a very dynamic state. The Phoenix area in Arizona, Grenoble has had a sister city relationship with them, and they are booming right now. New York also, in addition to what's going on, downstate, there's upstate in and around Albany. There's an amazing university and industrial complex near in and around Albany, and then there's an organization called New York Creates that we work with, and then we have links to Boston, Houston,
You're
Austin,
all over the US, basically.
and Chicago. Yeah, and Canada. So yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, Canada as well. But so how does a daily job look like for you?
That's a good question. It's always different because it depends on, what conferences I've been to recently or I'm preparing for. I was at CES this year with the region. We had, I think, 26 out of our 31 companies actually show up to CES this year.
Great.
So it was important for me to be there. I think we'll be preparing for, there's going to be some medtech conferences and some clean tech sustainability conferences. So there's always a lot of sort of connections and follow-ups with the connections that we already know over the years. So I'm on LinkedIn a lot. I try to post interesting news. I also manage the Friends of Grenoble North America group. We're over 800 members now, and everyone has some sort of link to either Grenoble or North America and an interest in both of them connecting. So I'm always inviting people to join, and anyone can ping me about that. I have calls to and with France starting very early morning because of the time change, as
yes,
you know.
I know that.
Yes,
Trust me, I know.
And so I do not speak French at midnight usually, but I will then do the rest of my calls at the rest of the day. But I try to do my France calls in the morning. And so it's just really a lot of, connecting and following up and sending information. And then I also connect with the people at Business France because we have a lot of projects, ongoing projects.
And so there's one that you didn't mention because you've talked a lot about different communities or things that you're a part of, but what about the CCEF, the CCEF, which is the Commerce Extérieur, French Foreign Trade Advisor?
Yeah,
what's this about?
I was just named as a French Foreign Trade Advisor, and I don't actually, I haven't actually had my intake meeting yet. So I've attended one of the meetings in person here in LA, but I'll be able to, to talk about that more later. But thank you for asking.
So that's something additional to your other things. But
that's right.
No, that's great. And do you have like a success story you could tell us about, just to show people a little bit what a success story looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. And then with regard to CCEF, they're looking to expand and include more women in their membership.
Yes, I know.
If anyone knows some good people, definitely connect me, and we'll get moving on that. So for success stories, I guess the companies that I've helped in the Bay Area, for example, are in the semiconductor industry. There's a semiconductor equipment company called Form Factor that we helped. There's a design automation company called Atrenta who set up in Grenoble, and then they were ultimately acquired by an American company there, and then that American company was acquired by a German company. So you know how things move around. So you can help one executive and they can move all over the place. And that was the case with a company called Plasma Therm. They're based out of Florida, but the executive I met in the Bay Area when he was working for another company, and he since set up in Grenoble. They expanded, and then they recently acquired a company in Grenoble as well, and kept them in place and expanded from there. We also work with a lot of small startups because it's a very interesting place for startups to get great talent and visibility, and potentially have collaborations with our labs as well, because a lot of times they need to do prototypes and they just can't do that in the US, so they come directly to Europe for that. So we worked with a sensor technology company that was being used by the NFL in helmets from the Bay Area, and then there was recently a nanostructures and nanomaterials fabrication company that set up starting with a collaboration with Leti. And then they've since done some things in Paris, I believe, since then. So anyway, it's hard to keep track of everyone, and everyone moves so much, and you also don't have that much control over over what happens to a company once they're there. But at least we had a finger on that pulse, and we had an impact in some way.
So it's not a success story, it's lots of different success stories.
Yeah, and like I said, it's very hard to judge. So I guess we have to work with everyone. I'm never unhappy when someone says, "Oh, I have a contact at that company. Great, let's work together." Nobody is saying, "Oh, that's my thing," and you can't get in on it. Everyone, I think, is happy nowadays to have a little bit of impact where they can.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, because I think we now have a good grasp of what you do and what is Invest in Grenoble Alpes. And I would have one last question. It's we're Friday lunchtime. What do you have planned
Oh,
for the weekend?
Oh, good question. Actually, since I was away all week, there's a lot to catch up on. It's my mother's birthday on Sunday, and there's a big football game on. So I think we're going to be spending a couple of hours with her, and I'll probably do some hiking. And then, yeah, there's going to be some big moves for my parents upcoming now. So it's a lot of family stuff this
So
weekend.
family time, basically, mostly, and a
Yep,
bit of course.
absolutely.
Well,
Yep.
great. Well, thank you once again for taking the time to explain to our community what it is that you do and what is Invest in France, in Grenoble Alpes. And
Thanks.
thank you everyone for joining. And of course, we'll be available in replay in a couple of hours, I guess. And thank you. Have a nice day, everyone, and have a lovely
Fantastic.
weekend. Bye,
Thank you,
Sharon. Bye,
Emmanuel.
everyone.
Weekend.